There's a brief Zen saying I wrote down many years ago, and I can't actually remember precisely the words, but it's said in, it's a short poem, and it just says something about that it's winter, and one can see, looking at the monastery, that it's well prepared for that. Everything is put away and clean and very sharp, and it's not as if there's tools and leaves and everything just kind of around and dirty and messy. And it doesn't really matter the season, but this is a sense of preparation one is going through. And so we've had some recent encouragements. Ajahn gave a talk about sweeping, and Tan Hemiko about that sense of greeting others with an acknowledgement of the beautiful nature of awareness, and that's what we can trust in others, rather than all of the things that are actually not to be trusted, not to be thought of as a refuge, people's views and opinions. But in terms of really how we think about ways to prepare and deal with our minds, the ideal is that we're doing this all through meditation. We're cultivating all of the qualities that the Buddha is encouraging us in through sitting and walking. But that's not how it really works. If we sat all the time, then that would have a very unhelpful benefit, or unhelpful result for our health. We can't just sit all the time. And there is an active part of our practice. I mean, even the monks during the time of the Buddha, there was no way they could just spend all their time sitting. They had to do things like taking care of their robes. They had to make sure that they had a shelter. They had some place where they could shelter from cold weather or rain, elements, as well as just insects and animals. They needed to look for alms food each day. And it wasn't as if one just, it's possible, there's very a few instances of this where someone just met the Buddha and had some words with him, or a disciple of the Buddha, and then they gained access to the Dhamma. They had a realization. For the most part, people need to work with the teachings, they need to hear the teachings as well. So there's also that sense of, as the Buddha said, reciting and consolidating what one knows of the Dhamma. And so we idealize often this sense of retreat, what it is to be on retreat. And we can sometimes create this dichotomy where everything else it just doesn't matter. But the more we pay attention to what it is we're doing, how we're speaking, tools we have to use, if one's not careful with wielding a knife in the kitchen, and it might not just be food one cuts, you lose a finger. If one's walking around the kitchen with a knife and it's facing forward and they're very intent on what they're doing, moving very far forward, that could go into somebody else's abdomen. So we do have to be careful, very careful. So this goes with all the activities we engage in, no matter what we're doing. We're taking care with what we do. we're not doing things sloppily, because it's this dichotomy that is a serious problem if someone really believes in it. If they just think that formal meditation is the only time that one is really cultivating the Buddha's teachings, and everything else, it just doesn't matter. We can do whatever we want. And that's wrong view. And some people live their lives like that. They can put a lot of effort into this formal practice, go on retreat for a week, and then as soon as they're finished, they might go back to using drugs or alcohol, acting in ways that are harmful towards themselves or others. And it's like, as Lumpur Cha says, it's sort of mindfulness. You're supposed to really encourage yourself to see it as more of a continuous stream of water that you're filling up, like a bucket or a very large cistern. You don't want that to turn into a drip or to just stop flowing. If you think about that dichotomy as just thinking that formal practice is the only way, and everything else is it doesn't really matter, then sure, we can fill up a bucket with water, but it's when that stops with all of our effort into the practice, well, it's not as if that water will actually stay there, it'll just dry up. So we really do want to think about our practice as a wholehearted effort into everything we're doing. When we speak to others, again, as Tan Himiko mentioned, when we think about others or when we're relating to them in our minds, remember that each of us have the capacity for awareness. And whatever it is we're doing, when we're putting on our robes, we're doing it with a sense of mindfulness. We're putting on clothes. Sometimes we can see, I'm just trying to look good in this. And so just being aware of that intention, or taking care of all those things that we use, being careful with them. So we're using everything in our daily life, everything that we're doing, to continue to bring us back to the present moment of our experience, to come back to our bodies, to see what we're actually experiencing. And then through wisdom we see, oh, this is wholesome, this is unwholesome. And this is the direction I can move my mind into. These are the intentions I can make that are helpful for me. And so we do that again and again when we're sitting on the mat, or we're drinking a cup of coffee, speaking to someone, using a tool or whatever it might be. And we see that as just as important as anything else we're doing. All of those things, they're just as important to bring ourselves to understanding wisdom.